Hey, welcome back from the break, the sort of break since our previous talk ended a few minutes early. Anna is going to be doing a talk that is a very personal talk, and I just wanted to briefly say that, conferences are about, especially one of these first type conferences after the pandemic, are about meeting people and getting to know people, and I think this talk will help you to get to know Anna a little better. Anna and I ourselves met at type conferences, first at TypeCon in Denver, and then ATypI in Sao Paulo. We were just in a random group of people, and we were like, yeah, we need to get some food. Let's just all go out for lunch, and that's how we met and got to know each other. And I encourage you all to do the same, and perhaps you'll get to know Anna through this talk.
Thank
Anna.
you. Okay, where's the control? I start losing things. Oh no, oh no. Okay. So, hello. This is my first ATypI presentation. And I'm specialized in typography, letterpress printing, and recently type design. English, as you can see, and many of you, is not my first, my second language, so sometimes I will be reading my notes. Am I far? Okay, I'm good. Thank you. So, first, I want to comment that there is a little black bag passing along with some 3D printed letters. Please pick one and pass along. Keep it as a little token from my font Vine. And if someone is sleepy, is also kind of a fidget that you can hold on, keep awake. Yesterday it was quite an inspirational talk for me personally from Veronique Vienne and on the weight of ink. And it's such a beautiful title, and it made me help me describe my project too, because that's exactly what you will see about my investigations also of how the ink affects typography. So that's what happens, and how the type designer can also work around that. So let's move. So this will be how we'll go, where I'm coming from, Vine's journey, new perspectives, new journey, lessons learned, and what's next. And that's the last emojis that you're seeing here. Let's jump right in. Today, I'm coming from Seattle, where I have been living for 10 years now. But I grew up literally swinging between Russia, where my mother and I were born, and Brazil, where my father is from, and where I spent most of my adult life. My mother is a Russian literature professor and was very dedicated to my Russian culture, education, and made me read books for me first in Russian, and then made me read in Russian every day, especially when we were living in Brazil, so I wouldn't forget the language. So since very early childhood, I was lucky to be exposed to many, many beautifully produced and typographically engaging books. So they were still mainly letterpress printed back in the 70s, especially the typographic part. And the experience of holding them in my hands, admiring their visual language, smelling the ink, the paper, and feeling these different textures and finishes had a really deep emotional imprint in me. And it was a foundational experience for my visual graphic literacy. So, of course, fast forward, after graduating design school, I specialized in book design, became a book designer in Brazil, and where I worked for 15 years in Rio de Janeiro, going from an in-house designer, managing a design department in a big publishing house in Brazil, and to founding my own Versalete studio, where we did a lot of design work with Cristiane Mello, my partner. And I worked with a wide variety of book publishers and collaborated with a lot of renowned illustrators. So this experience really built my skills as a typographer and became part of my identity as a creative. But all that was about to change when in 2012, my husband, my 3-year-old son, and I moved from Rio to Seattle. Initially, we came because of his work, and I had my visa wasn't allowed me to work, so I turned to study. And I found the School of Visual Concepts Letterpress courses. And it was like a bright light in the middle of a rainy day, just like the weather in Seattle. And so Letterpress enriched my life in so many ways. And today I feel proud of being of this passionate community, which gave me a lot of friends, new skills, and inspiration to design my first typeface. And now to wine. What? Okay, I'm not bringing wine just because we are in France and we have wine with every meal, but it actually has to do with the origins of this project. And also, Washington State, actually, I discovered is the second wine producer in the US after California. So while I was visiting vineyards there in Washington State, I was drawn to the way that vines create these beautiful flowing silhouettes. And I wanted to anchor my first typeface to this idea also of origin, the first stage of a narrative or a journey. So I realized that vines can also represent this beginning that will land of our glasses of wines. And that's how I decided to name. So from that point forward, the stems, branches, and tails of vines became the inspirations for the details of my initial sketches. As you can see, very initial sketches of someone that had no clue how to draw type yet, but that's how it came to be the name, Vine. So at this point, I started to seek courses and ways to learn more how to design type, right? So through Alphabet mentorship program, I was connected to a type designer, Ferran Milan, who helped me prepare to my next step, getting a formal type education. So as many other people in the world, I couldn't afford to spend a year dedicated to attending a full-time design program far from home at that point of my life. So I went for what I could. 3-week family vacation in Europe, from which 2 I was gone to Reading's TDI. So also, sadly, this was also Gerhard Unger's last year that he taught at TDI, and I feel very, very fortunate that I was there. And after the break, if someone wants to know the story, how he saved Vine from the ditch, come talk to me. I'll tell this story. So this is how I began to patchwork my type education. And of course, it didn't stop there. The following year, I was flying to California, renting a car, driving 2 hours to Alphabet Farm to attend a type workshop with Sumner Stone. And he saw a lot of potential in my early designs, and then he tutored me for several months, and this was extremely helpful too, as it gave me confidence to persist, learn more, and improve my design. Here he is smiling with his big R. I learned that this R actually broke. That's sad. Anyway, it's his favorite letter to design, he said. So then, during the pandemic, everybody's bringing pandemic here today. As many activities stalled, actually, the accessibility to type education just amplified. So finally, I could take courses from Type at Cooper and Type West and other organizations, and finally taking Practica course, which was fantastic to start expanding my typeface. So now let's dive into letterpress again. So post-digital letterpress printing is a term I first heard in a conference with the same name that happened in Porto in January 2020. It has been used to describe production processes that combine letterpress printing with more current technologies, like laser cutting, 3D printing, flexography, and other computer-to-plate systems of producing plates. So these technical innovations were also accompanied by a significant shift in perspective, leading to an increased appreciation for this tactile feel of letterpress print impression on thicker papers instead of what was traditional smoother and kiss impression that avoids too much pressure to the type. So this has been a big shift in what more younger generation appreciates in letterpress. And you can see, yeah, okay, let's move. So new generations started using letterpress more as an art form of instead of a cheap commercial print like it used to be before offset printing. So that the change to this much deeper relief with thick, soft papers became more acceptable too, because also of a shift in the technology. And we have now more alternatives to the precious metal type, like photopolymer plates. Don't go far from the mic. So back to photopolymer plates. So you can see here how it is very flexible and relatively easy to cut. So you can print just the part that you need. And this technology is quick, easy, and relatively inexpensive bridge between digital files and print-ready plates. And it has this adhesive on the back that you can attach on a special type of metal base and then print in any letterpress, flatbed or CNP-like. So here's on the Vandercook 219. Now, what fascinates me as a typographer is to note what happens with the visual appearance of the text when it undergoes this type of impression. Oh, how Veronique said yesterday about the ink, how the ink affects the type and how the type designer can respond to that, design that, plan for that. That became fascinating for me because I didn't see much people talking about that. And usually when I start talking, it would be to blame the poor printing, blame the ink. So I wanted to, instead of blame the ink, how about I try to design a typeface for this new deep impression type contemporary letterpress. So, but first let's take a look. That's why I have notes, so I don't go rabbit holes in my thoughts. Here on the left is a screenshot of my digital file. And on the right is my final print. So I'm using a repo. It's a display face designed by Sumner Stone, and it has this high contrast and very delicate features. So this effect really made me wonder, what would be to challenge myself to design a contemporary typeface that could better accommodate this type of output when compared to other typefaces designed and tested for high-precision prints, because we are always testing, right, in high-quality lasers or in the screen. So this was what fascinated me. So here was my first brief that I brought to myself to create a semi-condensed sans with a humanist touch, simple and resilient features, warm gestures, and still legible in text sizes. And as keywords like to be flexible, comfortable, clear, and accommodating for output with imperfections. And here are some references that I used during my design. And you can notice they all have this movement, and some has this big X height that also was reference for me. And here's the design that I arrived for Vine. And I call it a wavy, flexible appearance with a robust personality. And on the left, you can see on this little print there that I made during the process. Note these 3 little heart-shaped ornaments, because they will come back soon. Okay, here we go. And let's look a little closer. So I describe it also as, in a more technical terms, it would be like an organic, flexible sans with no straight lines. Yes, it was a lot of work. Not very good to work with components and those full of curves. So it has very modulated stems, simple terminals, tall X height, pointy feet, and the feet was very key I made it heavier to create a kind of false baseline because it doesn't have serifs. So in my other tests, if it's very kind of wobbly, it gets too crazy. So the feet kind of anchors a bit this wavy design. And semi-condensed proportions, clear joints, open, and soft gestures and open counters. So during my design process, I produced many proofs in Letterpress and showed them in past presentations. But today, I will highlight this mini poster only, designed for the Post-Digital Letterpress Print Conference, because it's an interesting test that I did with Vine in 2 different outputs on the same paper. But here on the left is a digital file, and on the right is the poster printed in 2 different systems, laser and letterpress. And here are some comparisons closer. So we can see that Vine's organic and flexible design ends up pretty resilient to swelling and deforming under pressure and still keeping its character. So from that core design, thanks to Practica program that I mentioned, and also Reiner's course on interpolation, I moved to working on expanding my weight axis, which is my current work in progress, but you're having a little peek here. And here also I'm doing some evaluations about creating another axis that will be an in-print axis for accommodating even more this deep impression. after this test. And here is a first piece, a printed piece of where I'm testing the weight axis. And it's a conversion table of typographic units, organized in a matrix and representing a bridge between cultures, as it goes from Anglo-Saxon points based on inches, to metric, millimeters, and to judo, that are points that are adopted in Brazil. And it is a collaboration with a printer in Curitiba that I met through ATypI event. It's a Brazilian event, typographic event. She has been reviving her family's letterpress business in very similar fashion that I witnessed in the US. So we worked from distance until I traveled to Brazil last summer to print at her beautiful studio. And we printed these two versions in Portuguese and English. And by the way, I have the prints here with me. If you want some, come talk to me. I have some extras for you. So we produced this also short video that you can find more about this project on my website. But now we come to a pivotal moment on this presentation. The two smiling ladies in the picture are Cristiane Mello and Karina Oliveira, current partners at Versalete Studio, the one that I founded with Chris back in the days. And at that point, we have been collaborating in different projects. And they were helping me also with my social media accounts. So as we were talking about creative ways to display Vine on social media, we came up with the idea of playing with the letter forms of Vine and create these decorative elements. So we're drinking wine, playing with the elements. That's how I illustrated this idyllic thing in my head. So let's jump right into our experiments. So Karina, which is very skillful an illustrator, created this illustrator that I mentioned with the glyphs of Vine morphing into butterflies, stars, hearts, mandalas, flowers. So we also experimented with some other of my fonts in progress, and these posts are on Instagram. But because Vine has such a flowing, organic, yet simple design, it led to more visually appealing shapes that other fonts with sharp serifs and more complex details. So here a little more of experiments. So even when the glyph camouflages into new designs, we can still see and recognize Vine's DNA. So we posted those on Valentine's, St. Patrick's, and I also started showing them around to people outside social media and observing their reactions, and realizing that we were onto something interesting and worth investing our time to explore. But random experiments can be fun. It was really fun. But kind of finding a direction and transforming them into useful digital assets needed some strategy, planning, and organization. So here how we went about that. We decided to make a system with single characters. So Karina created those on Illustrator, these modules that we first called modules, then we started calling them elements, with a single character just rotating and mirroring. And we were surprised how many interesting elements it yielded to. It was really amazing. And she ended up doing all uppercase and all lowercase. We ended with 52 files of this initial system. And here I will, of course, because of time, show only 3. This is the C. And then Karina started selecting the elements that will be more appropriate for what we were planning next. And Chris and I, we were starting researching, thinking of marketplaces that we could put it out. And here are some of the patterns that we arrived based on these single letters. You can see little gifts. So in some, again, you can see the letter, and in some, it completely disappears. It becomes something else, and it's fun too. So next thing, we decided to plan how are we going to present this as a product. So we discussed several possibilities for themed collections, and we decided to go with winter holidays. So we selected the patterns to evoke these festivities and created color palettes with this theme. We organized our digital assets as swatches on Illustrator and also as image tiles, so designers can easily apply them in various softwares. And we generated a series of vector elements to our colored themes, so designers also can have more flexibility when using these designs. And we created a lot of mock-ups to see how this could work, and I will show just a few here. Here are some possible applications like textiles, branding, and packaging. And since we were aiming for the winter holidays, there is, of course, wrapping papers and holiday cards too. So at the end, we generated so many elements, patterns, and color variations that we divided them in 3 collections. Winter Holidays Light Collection that is combined with the messages, Happy Holidays, Peace and Light. Winter Holiday Joy Collection that is more abstract forms, but they are joyful and fun, like the little gifts. And Winter Holidays Peace Collection with elements that are more whimsical and star-shaped. So in the meantime, I was working on Vine and are directing these projects that they were developing mostly on Illustrator. But being involved in developing our digital assets from Vine started to gradually expand my own perspective too. So I realized that the font I was creating could have much more broader scope of applications and audiences that I initially anticipated when I was focusing on Letterpress. Like creatives that may want to use Vine as a display face, combining with these typographic ornaments and patterns. So with that, I shifted also and started investing less on text features like outside figures and small caps, and invested more on alternates and heading features for more like a display face, and also incorporating in the font some ornaments and these elements that we were developing for our collections. So here are the ornaments, how they are built with the letters. And these are most exclusively in the font, so these are included in the font. And here are examples of how the whole combination can work together. and the X-ray behind that with the alternate glyphs. And also I want to illustrate how Vine can evoke feelings of warmth, ease, well-being, and care in like brand-like settings, combined with its own ornaments that come in the font. And of course, at some point, I found time to create a letterpress project out of that. And these are coasters I produced as promo material, some promotion of the collections for Hamilton's Waste Goose last year. So instead of working to finalize Vine as a family of styles, I focused on enhancing and finishing the regular style first and release it together with the collections. So we released 4 products on the creative market as a test run under the name Type Art Crafters last year. And the idea behind the name is a collaboration between graphic design or surface design and a type designer to generate new digital assets based on fonts. But there is still a lot of work ahead, and there is still a lot of work to make us pay our bills. So here are some lessons learned from this process to launch winter holidays way before the fall, because obvious. Invest in marketing strategy, with sometimes type designers, the graphic designers are not so good. We just want to produce our things. Price it right, because also pricing too low is as bad as pricing too high. And explain again, because it's not a very common concept, and that's what I'm trying to do. And as we approach our end, also always there are some not so good news. So unfortunately, at the end of last year, due to personal issues, my colleagues from Brazil, from Rio, had to suddenly withdraw from our collaboration. For a while, I felt quite unsure and anxious and on how to proceed with that. But in Brazil, we have a song for this situation. I guess we have a song for every situation in Brazil. But it says, like, get up, shake the dust, and get over it. It's levanta, sacode a poeira e dá volta por cima, da Beth Carvalho. Levanta, sacode a poeira e dá volta por cima. Né? Oh, yeah, almost there. So that's what I did. And I brought on board a new amazing designer and a friend to collaborate on what's next for TAC. This is Tabitha. And this includes our new goals, finishing up Vinecraft family as SAP, and finding distributors, distributing out, expanding TAC Store to more DIY platforms, connecting with organizations, and licensing it as a custom project for branding, etc. And build more collaborations with graphic, surface designers, other type designers who are interested. Not listed here, but I'm also eyeing to make some wood type ornaments, because how cool will be that, these ornaments in the wood type. So, finally, I just want to dedicate this presentation in memory of a fantastic, incredible professor in Brazil, Guilherme Cunha Lima, who was my first mentor in graphic design, and that I miss so much. He passed away last year, and didn't get to see him for a long time. And that's the end. If you have questions, if we have time, or know any individuals or organizations who may be interested in distributing, licensing, collaborating on this project, please feel free to contact me. Merci and santé. Thank you. Okay. I can see well with the light. I'm like blind.
I can see you have a lot of friends, so that's great. Does anybody has a question? Yep. So, okay.
illustrator? Is it you? I'm really blind. What do you do here? I think we're blocked.
There we go. I love that you included ornaments in the typeface, in the same typeface. It's kind of this meta inclusion. And I'm wondering if you needed to, like, did you come across a limitation in the unit per M grid because those ornaments are so much more intricate than the rest of the letters? Were there any kind of considerations technically when doing that?
Yes, thanks for your question. Exactly. When it was very interesting because it was a full circle process, right? Because they took the glyphs and then did the ornaments, elements in the illustrator, and then that made me kind of bring back into glyphs. And yes, many of them, I had to fix a lot of points. And this was also an aspect for selection, because if you can see, like, they didn't end it alphabetically in the typeface, which I want to update next. When I update Vine, I want to have all the letters. So, the user can, I want my letter like W, and don't have. Because my criteria were by the form that was easier and quicker to fix. So it doesn't have all these terrible curves. But yes, many of them I had to adjust. But some I had to just discard because it was just way too complicated. And sometimes I catch the problems when my husband is preparing for 3D printing, and there are these nodes doing crazy things. And so, yeah, that was a challenge.
Is there another question? No? Okay. Yeah? No. Okay. I saw someone raising their hand. No. Okay. So maybe. Yeah, he was stretching a little bit. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And let's go for a break.
Thank you.